Now the body's been taped, and we're going to be moving on to the nose. But just to recap, going over what we've done, laying the tape down, trying not to create too many overlapping joints, but we know it's a necessary thing, so it's been done. One of the other things important, laying in the piece to fill in the gap between the body and the vertical stabilizer, and then making sure also that we've wiped everything down with acetone as we go individually. That way the tape's going to stick to itself and not want to peel up. I've yet to iron the body as a whole. The little pieces that had that possibility of wrinkling, those were ironed as I went. But from this point on, we're going to go ahead and show you how to tape the nose up, and then at that point, then we're going to go ahead and iron the rest of the body down. Okay, getting the nose done here. Get an approximate length. I like to do the nose in quite a few small strips, and I'm also going to be bringing in at an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and get this tape strip down, and I just stick some pieces right here on the table. Now the table's nice and clean. I've wiped it down with acetone. That way I don't have an issue with everything sticking to it. Also stuck down here. And I'm going to strip these down into fairly small pieces. This one here is probably 3/16 of an inch. Now what I'm going to be doing here, I don't lay these perfectly straight. I'm going to lay these at an angle, and I'm just going to work my way around in a circle. I'm going to try to also overlap about half an inch or so onto the other tape. And the reason I lay these at an angle is because what it'll do is it'll allow just a real nice kind of spiral pattern on the nose, and I've found that as it interlocks on itself, it's quite a bit stronger. So now here we're going to put quite a bit of pressure. Before I've told you not to put too much pressure. We're not worried about deforming the nose. We're not going to bend the body by doing this part. So we want to pull it nice and tight. That way you have a really tight spinner. And then also, as we begin to get our stuff wrapped around the nose, you're going to probably see we're going to have quite a bit of overhang on the bottom here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start trimming this stuff off as I go. As I work my way around, I'll get a few pieces off, and I'm going to trim them at an angle, and it's going to allow it to be really clean. So. As I can see here, as I'm going to go around this piece, I can go a little bit wider just because of the angle it's going to come on. I won't have a wrinkle issue at all. At this point, I'm going to flip it over, use my razor knife. I'm going to trim this here. I haven't pressed this stuff down on here too hard, which is going to allow it to come off without pulling off any cells. What will happen when you overlap this stuff on the nose, if you get too much up there, you're going to end up with just a big kind of tape blob. You don't want that. You want it to be clean. Go ahead and, while this is laying on its side, I'm going to start at another angle and work my way around, doing the exact same thing though. Now this here needs to be stripped. This is where one of the smaller ones is going to come into play. I hear wind blowing outside too. It's really frustrating. Just like on the wing, now that we have the nose tape, we're going to go ahead and have our iron at about 210 degrees. We're going to iron this down. Make sure you keep your iron moving so you don't burn the tape. And we're going to go ahead and seal this tape onto the foam and the spackle. It's also going to get nice and tight and shiny now. Once we have this part done here, we're going to do the entire fuse just like we did on the wing. When we're done, we're going to be ready for covering. Now it's time to cover the fuse. Again, we're going to be covering the fuse with Solartex, and it's going to go on basically the same as what we did on the wing. I like to start with the tail. One of the things you guys probably you noticed, I cover everything as one single or one whole unit. I don't like to cover, you know, the vertical and then the horizontal and then assemble everything, you know, separate. For a couple reasons. You know, I don't have that joint. You know, this is as solid as I can get. I'm taping up onto it, and then I'm covering it all as one complete unit. It's going to be cleaner aerodynamically, cleaner visually, and it is a little tougher to cover this way. We're probably realistically going to add about a half an hour total to the time. So let's go ahead and get started. Time to put a misting of 3M on the body. And when we're putting on the covering, this isn't, you know, we're not putting enough on to hold it in place. Only while we're sticking our Solartex down. So, got a piece of Solartex cut for the tail. We're going to start on the top of the tail. Position this so it sits about a 1/4 inch up onto the vertical, and then you've got room on the back to go ahead and pull down. There we go. Just use your hand to straighten it out. Get your iron handy. Start in the center and work it out. Now this is, on the fuselage, we're going to use the contours and shapes of the iron a whole lot more than we do on the wing. The wing's basically using the flat spot of the iron. This, you know, doing a fuse, you're going to use the side of the shoe, the tips, the rounded angles, flat spots, pretty much the whole thing, sometimes even the back edge, depending on what we want to do. This case here, I'm going to use the front angle of the shoe and get it right here onto where I spackled up into it. Just get that sealed and pressed down real nice and tight. Then come along here and give me a definitive edge on the leading edge of the stab around the outside, and then making sure that the elevator is pulled down. I'm going to get me a nice clean line, making sure it's free, and I'm going to go ahead and get this start rolling in. One thing I'm doing here also, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put a slit mark in the covering right away, right on the joint. You see right in here. Pulling it down tight so I can see exactly where it's at. That way I can start rolling it down into the back edge. What I'm going to do, this is going to be the same technique here of hinging the elevator as I did on the wing for the aileron. Using the top part of the shoe, making sure that the elevator is pulled down as far as I can get it. Okay, once we have that there, pulling it down, putting it on the 45-degree angle on the elevator itself, putting a nice sharp angle on it. pulling it up and coming down. Okay, I'm going to need to do trimming here along where it's going to meet the body. I'm going to need to make a slit right here where it comes up in line. Make that slit and get this loose. Need to bring it down. I need to bring it down basically right to where the elevator joint is, right about here. And what I mean by elevator joint, I mean that's where the elevator linkage that is going into it, the piece of metal. I'm going to take it down right to that. Once that's clear, I'm going to seal this around the edges. Use something like a pair of scissors or anything just pointy. You don't want to poke it through it, but all you want to do is take this, making sure that it's clear, and get it pushed down to the bottom. Okay, now this is pulled through to the bottom. There's still enough room I can get my finger underneath there and pull it down nice and tight. We're going to go ahead and get this sealed the rest of the way down. And this is using the same exact technique here that I did when I did the aileron again. So bringing it in tight. I'm going to use the back of the shoe here to bring it in against that angled piece of the elevator. Now it's tight in between the body here, so you just gotta work it. Use your tool. And with our heat gun, we're going to shrink the edges. I've got these rolled over real nice. Begin to see here. Start to take shape. At this point, I'm going to flip it over. We've got pretty much, I mean, one way of saying it is just a mess of all the pulled Solartex as we begin getting it down. And what we're going to do here is trim it. Some of these angles are small enough here that we're going to have to make a couple relief cuts in it, but it's better to make a relief cut than to have a wrinkle. So what I'm going to do now is just pull it up. Using my finger as a guide, I'm going to trim what will be approximately a 1/4 inch rollover onto the elevator again. Back here, same thing. This is a little tight. It's probably really hard to see what I'm doing here, but I'm just trimming it along the elevator at the edge of the body here. Now on that one, I also need to take my razor knife here and cut a small slit in it. Let's see here if you guys could see here. I'm just going to be cutting a small slit. Once that's down, getting my iron, using the back part of the shoe to get in close and tight to the body. Pull it over so that way it's going to leave us a tight line, and get it on to the wood. A couple spots I need to trim. Use my small surgical scissors. Trim down here at the bottom. And go ahead and just finish sealing that there. I can also begin just to roll this over and finish sealing this here. Now, we're probably going to get in this camera here, possibly even this one, we'll be able to see on this tight corner what it's going to do. It begins to get a wavy action as we begin to work it over on the spots where it's going to want to wrinkle. Take it up to those points. And when we make the relief cuts for these, what we'll be doing is you make the relief cut in the wave. So as the wave comes out and points out, that's where you're going to put your scissors. and make your relief cut. That's where it wants to wrinkle, so we'll just take the possibility of it out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lightly and gently pull this one down. We want to make sure we don't touch the others. And just pull them down one at a time. All right, now I've got both tops done. Finishing up here on the bottom, and it's pretty much just a duplicate of the top, except for one thing. What I do different, I don't roll it over and put any relief cuts like I do on the top. What I do is I just begin to work it around, and I'm going to trim it just so it's coming up around the top edge. I'm still going to use a heat gun though to get that desired roll I want without having a wrinkle. Okay, got that done. Get my scissors in here. And in this case, I'm not trimming, not going to trim really high due to the fact that I've got the coverings overlapping about a 1/4 inch over onto this other side. Okay, once that's there, just use the iron to finish rolling it down here. Use the iron and I just kind of go back and forth, letting the heat begin to do the work to start to shrink the Solartex a little bit, and then it'll take it over the rest of the way without a wrinkle. Same thing here on the actual elevator. See the Solartex starting to stick on itself. It's a good thing. You see here that just where it's been trimmed over, just need to take the iron from the bottom and roll it over to the top. Seal the edges really well. Again, use the iron here on these corners. Just begin to roll it over real gentle. At this point, pull this elevator down. Get your iron right in the seam. Flip that up. And you can see here on the corner, now we've created a corner with no wrinkles and no seams and what appears to be no relief cuts because they're hidden underneath this other piece here. And we're going to move on here to the vertical. On the vertical stabilizer, what I'm going to do here to finish this off, I'm going to finish this off in a couple pieces. I'm going to put a couple small pieces right here to bring this up to this part of the body. Then I'm going to put a piece here across the top, and I'll be putting a piece across the bottom up to here, one piece across, and then rolling it around. Nothing really special to show you on this. We'll go to the next step to show you everything. It's just pretty much the same exact process we've done here on the horizontal. We're going to do on the vertical, and then I'll show you how I lay it across the body. Okay, now that we have the tail covered, we're going to go on to doing the fuselage. What I'm going to do is the small pieces I know I've got to cut in first. I'm going to do up here where the canopy is going to go. I'll put two small pieces up in here, slightly overlapping them for the one big piece on the side. I'm also going to do the bottom here, probably in just one small strip right here, and then another strip right here where it's going to meet the wing. Probably do one strip here on the nose, and then a strip right here where the air intake would be. Then I'm going to do a piece on each side. So we'll go ahead and get up here. I don't even need to cut a couple pieces. This is just scrap from as I've been doing the other parts. I'm going to go ahead and just set it on in. This one here, actually it looks like I'm going to be able to do it in just one piece. This is big enough. Get it set down in. I'm going to trim this here with about 1/8 of an inch overlap. I don't want as much as I've had on others. because I'm going to get a nice rollover overlap from the side pieces on the fuse. Okay, I'm going to get the front scoop. Get this pushed up nice and tight. It's always going to want a wrinkle here, and I'm going to be covering that with the piece from the nose anyways. So I just get it set down and started. We got a nice smile now. All the small trim parts covered. The front of the scoop, front belly, and the rear of the scoop. On this fuselage, I'm going to be able to cover one side with one piece all the way up to the nose cone. Then I'm going to cover the nose cone in two pieces. I do that for a reason. One of the things you may have noticed, I haven't put any lead in the nose to balance it yet. I do that at the very end once the plane is pretty much covered. That way all the weight that's added to the plane other than paint is already there. So go ahead and get this put on here on the side. Okay, what I'm going to be doing here, laying it down on its side, positioning this so I'm going to cover up and overlap up front. Then I come on down here. Go ahead and spread it out and get it set. This actually, I don't know why it worked out that way, but it comes just right to the edge. It's perfect. I get my center line done. Now what I'm going to do is just work it and stretch from there, all the corners. I'm constantly looking underneath to see exactly where I've got to roll it. See where I got to pull it. See if we can turn it this way for you guys. And up here, I'm going to start pulling a little pressure. Got a little tighter curve to go around. I'm going to start working this here, this edge, a little bit at a time. I know, in this case, I got to chase what wants to be a wrinkle out. Let me pull this out here. Go just a little bit at a time, working it constantly back and forth. And I'm going to put some pretty good pressure on the covering here. Yep. It's up just past center line now. That's good because that's about the point where it wants to go, where it wants to start wrinkling on us. Maybe work it a little bit farther without a wrinkle. We'll go ahead and cut. We're going to start working it down. I'm actually kind of right now just pinching it kind of between my body and my hand, where I'm just pushing it up against me to hold it tight. You can probably see I'm pulling pretty hard to make sure that I'm not going to leave any wrinkles. Had a small wrinkle starting to develop right there. We can actually just heat it up and pull over the whole area. As the adhesive loosens up, it just pulled it right back out. Let that set. I'm going to go ahead and trim the front part here. Just past center line. I'm going to go ahead and finish putting this down. Put a trim around where the canopy opening is. I want to define that a little bit better. So that way I don't, if it's defined well, I won't make the mistake of cutting too short. Let me go ahead and trim with excess. Bottom, this has got a nice definition line. Get it set. Then it's just a matter of coming in here, trimming around the wing saddle. Got a pretty good definition line, but need a little bit better right there. Do the whole thing. And that's it, guys. Half of this fuse is covered. I'm going to do the exact same thing now to the other half. Come back and show you how to do the nose cone. Now the body's covered. We were able to do the majority of the body in just the two pieces other than the trim. Now we're going to go ahead and cover the top of the nose and then the bottom. The way I like to do the top, I use just a big piece of Solartex because I want to be able to have room to grab and pull. This is a stretching basically thing that we're going to do. I'm going to be setting it on about a ½ inch overlap on this so I've got some good adhesion. Then I'm going to be bending and pulling this down, and I want to cover just over half of the nose is what I'm going to attempt to cover with the Solartex, taking all of these wrinkles out all the way around. Depending on the airplane, sometimes I'll have to do it in 3 pieces, but we'll see as we go. It all kind of just dictates as what's going to happen as we go. But you know, if all goes well, we'll get it in 2 pieces without a single relief cut. Okay, we're going to get the top edge sealed here. This part we're still using our iron, and we're going to go ahead and just get it tacked on. And I like to just begin to start it with the iron. Then we're going to move over to the heat gun and begin to work it down. That's about all I'm going to usually do. So we're going to go ahead and heat gun this down. Try to work this small wrinkle right here out with the iron. It's kind of messy this way to start with, but it sure does work nice in the end. This is just as everything we do, heat, pull, and stretch. Start working this back down now, finishing off these edges. Work it out. And there we go. The whole top covered in one piece. We're going to flip it over, mount the wing, and balance it right now. And we're going to go ahead and cover up the bottom after that. Okay, the plane is covered. The only thing left now to do is cover the nose and balance it. I save the balancing for the last due to the fact I don't like to balance twice. I don't want to cut into the nose more than one time. If I'm going to cut into it, I might as well do it now before it's covered. That way I can clean it back up and seal it up, and it's all done, one unit. I never have to get back into it. So what I'm going to do, you can cut any type of hole you want in here. I like to kind of cut a triangle into it. I find that goes back in real easy, and I can then use hot glue, seal it back up, throw a couple pieces of tape over it just like we taped up the nose, and then go ahead and cover it, and it's pretty much non-existent as far as showing. So grab my razor knife, and I know when I put my gear in also that my gear is farther back, so it's not a problem for me to just cut into here. And I'm just going to make an opening that's probably about 2 square inches total area. And once I get that part out, I'm just going to get something underneath here, a pair of pliers or a screwdriver or something. Carefully pull that out. Just right now while I'm thinking about it, I just trim it off. Because that right there is going to be what goes right back in. And that'll seal it all up nice and tight. Grab my little foam pliers that I like to pull the foam out with. Gently pull out some foam. Now I held this thing up and kind of pre-balanced it, figured that I'm somewhere right around 3/4 of an inch or so behind the CG where I want it ideally. So on a plane this size, I figure that's going to take probably 3, 4, or 5 ounces. I don't know. We'll see. What I'm going to do is I'll be pouring lead shot down inside here until I get it to balance on my fingers the way it should be. When that happens, I'm going to pour it out into a little Dixie cup, mix some epoxy with it, and pour it right back in. Fill up any remaining gap with some scrap foam, and then throw our piece back in, hot glue it. We'll close it on up. It'll be ready to fly. Now, I've got a Dixie cup here with some 8-shot lead, and I'm going to go ahead and just pour it on in the hole. Pour part of it in there, pick it up and balance it, or see where it does balance. I have my marks on the top of the wing, and Wow. That's really, really close to where I have it. What I'm going to do here, that's honestly about exactly what I want. Let me just double check that again. Yeah, that's my mark. That's pretty much exactly the weight that I want right now. I'm going to pour it out into another Dixie cup, take a little bit of the lead out to compensate for the weight of the epoxy. And we're going to go ahead and get it mixed up, pour it in. Okay, got some epoxy mixed up. I'm going to go ahead and take the lead shot, pour it on in. Mix it up really quick, get it all incorporated. When this is done, it's going to kind of look like caviar, I guess is one way of saying it. All you're going to do is take your cup, hold it over your hole, get it scooped on in. A couple of them trying to get away. Ain't going to let that happen. We need every one. And then once we get it mixed, just use your mixing stick here. Go ahead and tap it down into a nice tight ball. Save your cup. And once we get this all tapped in, we're going to fill the extra gap back in with a little EPP foam. Take our small little block here, cap it, and then we're going to finish the covering just like we did on the top of the nose. All right, now I finished up the covering. The plane is balanced. What I did when I balanced it about 2 degrees nose heavy when I did it. And what that does is, as I lay paint on it, considering that just a little bit more paint is going to go behind the CG than in front, when we're all done and everything's, all the stickers are on, all the paint's on, we're going to be perfectly balanced. Also, I just have the canopy here. The canopy is going to be going on last, and just to give you an idea of what it's starting to look like. And next step is paint. All right, we're ready to paint. I'm just going to go over a list of some of the things that you're going to need to paint with. Obviously, you need paint. I'm going to show how to do this here entirely with rattle can spray paint with a couple various different types. You could do a pretty nice job without having to go through the expense or experience of learning how to use an airbrush. Just using, like I said, rattle cans. We're going to use a couple other things. I've just got some 3M pinstriping to do some details. I've got some pre-made numbers that are just Cover-Right graphics. I'll be using those for the numbers. And then for the insignias, major decal, pressure sensitive. These ones right here are for the 40 size airplane. And then also, I've just picked up from a sign vinyl shop. I've just got some miscellaneous pieces of sign vinyl. What that does allows me to do just small little trim pieces I may not have in pre-built or pre-bought stuff. One thing also to mention, when the paint's all done and we're going to do the final detailing, it's pretty much done with just a Sharpie marker and a couple rulers. We're going to put panel lines on the plane also. That'll help. The tape that we're going to be working with, I've got 3 different types of tape that I like to work with. One is just regular masking tape, just everyday household masking tape. It doesn't have to be any type of special painter's tape or anything. Second type I like to use is the blue painter's tape. It's a low tack, but not low enough. Sometimes you do need something that's not quite as sticky. And for that, I use this. This is the Scotch Safe Release white tape. It's very low adhesion. I think, pretty much what their lowest tack is available. I would say that this stuff here, as far as its consistency, is a little less than what you would find on an average Post-it note. On the most of this paint here, we can spray it down. It'll literally go to the point of just getting, have the shine come off. We can lay this on, and then put the masking tape over it with our paper, spray our next layer, and it will not peel the paint off. So speaking of the paper, what I did is I just went to a local office supply store and I picked up some 11 by 17 paper, a ream of clean white paper. You do not want to use newspaper. Newspaper will leave all the ink marks all over the freshly painted airplane you've done. Another thing you're going to want to have is a respirator. I use this when I spray the Tamiya paint. This stuff here works great, but it is acrylic, has a pretty bad smell, and gets you lightheaded pretty quickly. Another thing that you're going to want to do when you're spraying is make sure you've got the shop well ventilated. Open up a door or window, turn on a fan, get something in there that's going to get the air flowing out, fresh air coming in. So and that's about it. Next step is starting to lay down the paint. All right, I propped up the wing, and I went ahead and taped off the servo and the torque rods. Right now what I'm going to do, I'm just using Krylon primer. I'm just going to spray a very light coat of primer on just to mask the green color. You don't want to go thick on the primer. Thick primer will just crack, and you know, your finish won't last nearly as long. I always spray the box to get it coming out good. When it's coming out clean, it's just a light mist. We still want to have the pores of the Solartex open to accept the paint. All we're doing, like I said, is just masking off or misting off on this gray. That'll help our other coats go down. I'm going to do this much primer on the bottom half and on the fuse also. Okay, we've let this set about 5 minutes. The base coat that I'm going to put down on this is Rust-Oleum. It's a high-performance specialty finish called silver aluminum. Normally, you never want to mix Rust-Oleum and Krylon spray paints together. You're going to have a reaction. Just from not knowing any different originally, I needed some silver paint. They had silver Rust-Oleum. I used this in Krylon many times now and have never had a reaction. What I did earlier was just take a piece of the scrap Solartex though, and I sprayed this down and I tested all the other colors I want to use. There was no reaction, so I know I'm good to go. I'm going to go ahead and spray this down. One of the things you want to do when you're spraying this, you don't want to spray in a close pattern in when you're putting your main colors down. What you want to do is you want to come back and spray and just kind of, what I want to say is almost an orbital pattern as you're going, shaking the can as you go. And what that's going to do is create a lot smoother texture, kind of what you would get out of an airbrush or a professional spray gun. So, test it, it's coming out good. And another thing is you don't want to put it on too thick. You pretty much want to put enough paint on the wing or on any part of the plane, just enough to get the color you're after. Anything more than that, all that's going to do is create paint that's going to want to chip. Okay, I've got the first part on there. I'm going to come back, be a little more deliberate in what I'm doing, a little slower. Finish it off. Actually, working under the lights is a big help. I can see in the glare exactly where this paint is laid down, where it's a little thick, where it's not quite covered the green. And that looks about right. I'm going to set this aside, do the fuselage. All right, I've let this set a few minutes. Now I've got the wing and the fuse sprayed. What I like to do when I do the silver, and this doesn't apply to all the colors, but it does to silver, I like to take a paper towel and I like to wipe it down. You're going to pick up, for whatever reason, silver just leaves a residue. Just lightly wipe it down. What that's going to do is it's going to give you a smoother look. It'll be a little cleaner. And we're just going to wipe this down. Once we're wiped down, we're going to go ahead and tape off our tails and start spraying our main color. All right, we've rubbed our silver down. Going to start laying out our tape, getting our spray patterns down, going around our graphics. The paint pattern that I'm going to use for this is not 100% scale. I'm going to use some bits and pieces I like from a couple different aircraft, make something that I think is going to look pretty cool when it's all done. It'll be original, yet, very distinct P-51 markings. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to use the wing mark, something similar in the wing marking to what was on the Valhalla. So I'm going to go ahead and outline that for you guys right now. Using your clean paper, we got to get some of our good tape here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the paper as my gauge for how far I need to go. So I'm going to take this piece of paper, this 8.5 or 11 by 17 inch paper. I'm going to hold it out here to the tip, and then go ahead and take my other piece of paper and just set it in here, so that way it's right at 11.5 inches. Using the low tack stuff, I'm going to make sure that I take this piece of paper and I square it out. Use the low tack stuff on this side to hold it down. What I'm then going to do, I'm going to come back over, and I know this is right at the 11.5 inches. I'm going to set this strip of paper and only give about 1/8 of an inch overlap to hold straight down onto the wing. That way it's got the distance I'm after. That's protected now. What I'm going to be doing is laying some of these decals in the wing here. And then I'm also going to inlay a USAF on the other side. And these are 2-inch numbers. So all I'm going to do is get a general idea on the width of them. And I'm going to inlay a piece of tape, nice and square. And I can see here I need to probably go two tape strips wide. Everything nice and square. Lay this piece of tape down on there. I'm going to take my razor knife and a ruler, and I'm going to go ahead and just looking at my picture here to see kind of what I'm duplicating. I'll cut it off about there. Like I said, I'm not trying to make this 100% scale. What I'm doing is doing some stuff that I like, and I'm just duplicating it over. So what comes out of this, will be just that, something original, and should look really cool though. Lay that down. I'm going to take another piece of tape here and just square this corner up. and then I'm going to trim it right up to the corner. I've got to turn my back just for a second, the way I like to use my razor knife. Okay, now I've got a general outline done. I'm going to use Krylon Blue for the wingtips on this. I found that their color, this is the True Blue Gloss. This shows up really well in the sky, gives a nice contrast to silver. There we go. Now I've got the spray pattern I'm after. Very light spray. Don't try to spray it all at one pass. Go ahead and spray it. Let it sit just, 5-6 seconds. Let the paint kind of blend. Come back, spray it again. This time, hitting just those areas that didn't blend together. Everything's real light. Just enough paint to cover the color underneath. You see right there, I need to hit a little. Anything more than that is going to cause, when you lift the tape up, it'll cause the tape to want to peel it up a little bit, and it'll also want to crack more. So we don't want to let this sit for too long, just a few seconds before we start to peel it up. And it's all done in this time we're going to bring both pieces of tape that we ran down up at the same time, and it'll be up and off quickly. Away. Here, same thing, up and off quickly. Set this aside. We can use this later. I've put the blue outline on the tips, both wings. Now I'm going to go ahead and put step lines on in black. And what I'm going to do, I don't want these to follow the trailing edge of the wing. I think I want these to go forward, straight. It's going to kind of give it a contrast on the wing. And the way I'm going to do that, I know that my bolts for my wing, those are dead center line. I'm just going to measure over 3 inches off of each edge, and I'm just going to make a mark. I'm just using a small fine tip black pen at the moment. I'll double check that one. Okay, I'll just put a couple small marks there. Again, I'm going to use the white Scotch tape. Now this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this. This is how wide I'm going to want my stripe to be. I'm going to use this as a guide to lay down the other pieces of white. So I'm going to set this so it sits right on the marks to the outside of the mark. Now see, this tape is great for the simple fact. I can peel it up, it doesn't take any of it off. And we just sprayed this wing about, 30 minutes ago. So, okay, that's nice and straight. Now I'm going to come back over it with the other white Scotch tape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to then use this to actually mask off what I don't want the paint on. Take out center section. I'm just going to roll these over. These here, This one here I'm going to roll over just because of the way my block is underneath. And this one nice and straight. Center section out. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use some of this clean, just regular white paper here. Get it here in front of me. Use some of the blue tape. Make a quick tape mask off. I can put this safely on the white and it'll release. Can reuse this one here. This is dried long enough. For the center section, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of the white paper, get an approximate width of where to cut it. In this case, what I'm going to do is use the blue paper on both edges of it, and I'm going to bend it over the top of the servo and onto the white lines. Okay, that's covered up. I'm going to have a nice clean line for my black steps. What I want to use on this, I'm going to use the Tamiya paint on this. I like the way it lays down for this application. You know what? I changed my mind midstream. I'm going to use the Krylon. Been using Krylon this whole time. I'll use Tamiya somewhere else. Okay, it's coming out smooth. Again, I'm just laying it down. I'm going to give it 3 or 4 or 5 seconds just to kind of lay down, smooth out, come back over. Finish it off with just enough paint to get the color on. Funny part, I thought Greg was over here giving me his best Chewbacca impersonation at first. It was pretty funny. And we can go ahead and safely take this stuff off. Just get the used stuff away. And we'll have our black step lines. Now I'm going to put some red on there, just kind of, make it come alive a little bit. I'm going to use vinyl for that. I got some of this red sign vinyl. Just going to strip it down into a couple, I don't know, probably, let's just figure out, maybe approximately 1/4 inch size strip. And I'm just going to cut this in half. I'm just going to put maybe like a piece of red trim right there. Got to get this stuff started. go ahead and just lay this parallel right up against the black, giving it about maybe 1/8 of an inch here. Get my razor knife, cut that off right flush with the trailing edge. And I'm just going to take this piece now, and I'm going to come square, and I'm just going to make it match right where the aileron starts. That way I have a reference line to do on the other side, and I can make them the same. And just square that off there. Like with my razor knife, and trim it. I'm going to trim off this extra piece right here. And all you're trying to do, especially when you're cutting some of this vinyl, is just enough pressure to cut the product you're doing. No pressure to go underneath it. You don't want to cut the Solartex at all. Okay, at this point, I'm just going to finish up masking off the nose here. I'm going to spray this black. And what I did here, a little different from the wing. The only thing really different is I used some of the 1/4 inch pinstriping, and I used that to outline the canopy area. And the reason I did that is because it's flexible as I pull it out, where the masking tape is flat, and you can see I had to strip it into quite a few pieces to get it to lay down. Okay, now I've taped off around everything now to cover any overspray. Get this sprayed. Now just a light coat right here, just enough to get it wet right there. Let it set 5 or 6 seconds. Kind of begins to blend and smooth out again. And then do your finish coat. And that's it. Now just got to go ahead and pull this stuff off. Now the pinstripe needs to come off. Sticky stuff. Okay, the top shield is painted. It's really sticky. So we've got this here. Now what we're going to do, just set this aside for a few minutes and let it dry, mask off something else. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm taping off the tail. Just going to get a little pattern on that I think will look cool. Some tips to use when masking off. Use line of sight for a lot of stuff. In other words, like as I'm putting on the tail, I do one side and then just try to bring them up to a point at the top and at the bottom, and then use my eye to see that they're pretty well even as they come down. When I'm happy with what we have, I'm going to go ahead and stick it down and get it pushed on there solid. and real happy with that. Get an idea. What I've done right here is I use the black pinstriping tape. Being it's made of some type of vinyl or plastic that allows it to stretch pretty easy. I've used that to go around the body here where I'll be masking off up front to protect that. I'm going to go ahead and paint the tail. I think I'm going to do the tail all blue, except for a couple spots right here. And we'll go from there. We're going to do here, trying to see. I think what I'm going to do is another indentation, kind of like the wing. I'm going to do one right there, come in about 1 inch. Just going to take some tape, using a straight edge, mark off a couple straight square pieces. I'm just going to, at this point, lay this down. What this is for, I'm just thinking I'm going to lay the tail number right here. That'll give it kind of a neat little outline for the number to sit in. That'll kind of highlight it. The way I like to do these now is I'm going to go down, use line of sight again to figure out how far in I need to be. Then I'll look on the back side here to line it up, and I could see that I need to come up quite a bit to make it the same. Now I'm at the proper height. And just bring it forward. If you wanted to, you could use a ruler here. That, you know, if you're more comfortable doing that and measuring it all out, that's absolutely just fine. There we go. I'm happy with that. Push it down, get it nice and tight. Now I'm going to go ahead and just start laying over some of that clean paper. I'm going to use this to cover the rest of the body from overspray. Now this white paint or white tape is really great stuff. We just sprayed the front of this here about 10 minutes ago. The white paper will be clean. Like I said, it won't transfer any of the ink over onto it. It's pretty nice that way. The back of the tail here, I'm not going to bother putting any paper there. I'm just going to use the tape to finish masking this off. It's a small enough area, I don't have to worry about it. Since I'm going to make the spinner the same color as the tail, I'm going to go ahead and mask it off and we'll spray it at the same time. Again, I'm using the thin vinyl pinstriping. What I want to do is when I get this in here, you're going to pull a little pressure on the tape, and you just want to use your eye again, and you want to get a nice round spinner going all the way down across, keeping everything square to the body. Just pull a little pressure on it. That way as it comes up, it's going to line up right on the rest of the stuff. I can come over, get this out of the way. And at this point what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the other masking tape, come around it and cover up, and then we'll spray the nose. We sprayed it. Now it's ready to go ahead and get this masking off. Yeah, I'm going to come back with the black line after we're done and put that back over it. That way, if I did make a small error in getting it really nice and square, this is going to do it. Ooh, plus it'll hide where the paint's going to lift off from it anyways. Like that. One thing to note, while I'm removing this paint, or the tape, the paint is still wet. So that's why I'm being very careful not to touch it as I go. If you let the paint dry, what will happen is you'll get an edge off the tape to the paint that'll want to pull, and you'll get these little strings. So you need to pretty much spray it, immediately come in and get the masking off. Okay, right now we're going to let this set for about 10 minutes and come back and start applying some graphics to it. We have our tail number on now. We have our star and bar on the side. What we're going to go ahead and do, so we're going to put a couple letters up. Okay, I'm going to lay down a strip to keep stuff in line. And pick out the letters I'm putting down. These are sticky. Really, really, really sticky. There's quite a bit of static in the air outside right now, which is making this fun. Let's kind of get it where it's supposed to be and get part of it stuck. And I'm just going to work it a little bit at a time over. Okay, I'm just going to use some of the tape here, and what I'm doing is I'm just using line of sight to mark off the beginning and the end of where I'm going to be putting the letters on the other side. We have our vinyl stickers on. We're going to use some vinyl pinstriping now and go ahead and put a pinstripe here on the nose and then come back with a heat gun and seal it on. And with a slight amount of tension coming down square. You want to put enough tension on it so that the vinyl will conform, because it's got to come along the angle of the nose cone without giving too many little wrinkles in it. What's also going to work really well is once we come up on this and get it where we want. We're going to hit it with that heat gun, and the heat gun will take out any little wrinkles it may have. Trim it off. And then when we hit all the stickers, we're going to hit them all at once. We'll hit that with the heat gun. Right now I'm going to do some of the little details. Stuff like this scoop, this is what really starts to bring everything alive. I'm just trimming this and that nice smile that it has. I don't like that one. Oh, this one's good, actually. I just need to trim this side a little bit. All right, now I'm going to show you how I set the vinyl stickers. I use a heat gun here. What you want to do is you want to have a clean paper towel handy. You just want to heat the stickers a little bit and then just rub them down. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the sticker to relax, and then it'll stick really well. And if it happened to have a small wrinkle in it when you set it in there, that'll push it out and shrink it out. That's about all this needs for that. I have some vinyl here, same kind of thing. Just heat it up a second. This case here, that was almost too much. Let it cool. Same thing with this sticker here. You want to do this with any of the stuff you put on the wing or the fuse, anything extra. Want to push it out, and now these will be sealed. They'll be tight and they'll stay on longer. Now we can go ahead and start panel lining. Panel lines, here's a little trick I use. First of all, I just keep a 3-view that I've printed out handy for the airplane that I've done. I'm not always completely necessary about or worried about doing the panel lines 100%. I just like to do them close. It really does bring the plane out. A couple things you're going to need. You need a long ruler. I like these flexible steel rulers here, work well. And then these plastic templates that you get like at Staples or some office supply store. These work really well for being able to bend around a fuse or anything. And then we can put little access panels and stuff in here traced out really easy. What I use to put it down on, I like the Sharpie ultrafine point pens. These here work really well. Another way of doing stuff, and some guys will do it, if you really want to get super technical on it, you can spray down a base coat of some different type of colored primer, and you can use the back edge of a razor knife along with your template, and you can actually scratch in your panel line. It looks really good. It works really well on glass planes doing that, so that's just another thing that works. So now on the P-51 panel lines were primarily straight from wingtip to wingtip. I'm going to establish a straight line. I've got some fishing string here, handy dandy pliers, and I'm going to use the low-tack tape here again to find that center line. I'm just going to tape this right at the aileron. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then coming down here, I'm just going to use a line of sight and put a dot. Another dot here. And dot on each corner where the string's at. And I'll use these as my reference now. And I can use that for my straight edge halfway across the wing. All right, taking my steel ruler, I'm going to position this here so the back edge is touching. I could see it's nice and straight to my lines that I've done. And I'm just going to pick a point out here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a point to the edge of the wing, the width of this particular template. Just draw it down on there with my Sharpie so I know right where it's at. I'm going to bring this one out from the center to it. You don't have to apply a lot of pressure. Just drag it neatly across. And I'm bringing this line just out to it. The reason being, on the P51, this long center line didn't go all the way out to the edge. So I'm just going to set this one back up on here now. Bring it down to the aileron itself. Now also, I could see on the P51 here that there was another small one just outside of the tip. I'm going to use a reference line inside here. In this case, I'm just going to use the inside part of this long oval. That'll be my straight line. And I'll be able to use that exact point when I switch over to the other side. What I do on the wing is I'm going to draw one full half of the wing, and then I'll switch over and duplicate what I've done to the other side. Now looking at that 3 view, there's another line that goes all the way across. I'm going to put that here. I'm just going to use a wider template. And then there was a double line in between there. Okay. Just going to use the width of my ruler here. Use a larger one. I'm going to bring a second line across. I'm going to bring this one out just to the first line. There. Then also, I'm going to bring a line across the trailing edge. So I'm going to put this about 1/8 of an inch off the actual gap and hinge line. So somewhere about there. I'm just going to take this one to the final little line right there. Don't want to take it all the way out to the tip. That line went out to this one here. Matter of fact, looking at that 3 view, this one on the tip went all the way onto the aileron itself. So I'm just going to finish that one off. So, okay, now I've got the basics of the P51 wing is laid out right now. I'm going to go ahead and put another, I'm going to go with the length this time. Bring this one all the way up. Okay, looking on my 3-view. Out here, there was an access hole. I'm just going to use this small circle one right here. I'm going to put it right in the corner of one of these panels. Draw that circle in there. Now, a lot of times these circles and panels would get dirty, and they'd have you'd have you know, some weathering coming off or wind marks or something. What I like to do there is I just got a inexpensive set of these oil pastels that have all kinds of cool different colors in there, and I use the black here a lot. I'm just going to come here on this black. I'm going to put a small little amount of black on the edge of it right there. So just take my finger and draw it back, and you're going to get a subtle mark, and it may not even show up in the camera, but it's there showing that it looks like something's been blowing out of that hole. So it's kind of neat. Out in the light, it'll make a big difference. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put another small axis panel, I think, right here. I'm going to make that one square. Okay. Also, just for fun.
Put that with the pastel too, if that is appropriate, because that shows up pretty good on the silver.
Okay. Use the pastel. Put a little black line there. Take your finger, draw it back. What that's going to do, give that nice weathered look coming off the piece there. Now I'm going to go ahead and, just looking at the wing, it looks like it needs another line here. I'm going to go ahead and right off the pivot point of the strake, I'm going to put a line just to accentuate the strake of the wing. I'm going to do that all the way across to the tip. There. And on the 3-view, there's no line coming off, but there is an access panel right there at the, again, another one, right at the point of the strake. So I'm just going to put one there. That's a different size square. Take my oil pastel, a small line, drag it down, give it a little character. And then the only thing I'm going to do to the top of this wing now here is I'm going to draw on just a small aileron, and I'll do that here with the, again, with the width, just generic width of my template. Okay, I'm going to call this done. I've got my panel lines drawn on, a little weathering. Now what I'm going to do is take what I've drawn here, duplicate it over to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing to the tail that I did on the main wing. I'm going to put down some lines and then work our way down the fuse. I don't know if that's scale or not, but it kind of brings it together. So I'm going to use one of these square panels here. I'm going to put in a trim tab. What I'm going to do is just kind of hold it, find a reference point that I can use on the other side and duplicate. I'm just going to use the number 1 and halfway through the circle. Put a little trim tab on there. You know, I think I'm also going to do, just to give a little bit more character to it, I'm going to give it a line right across the trailing edge itself too. Okay, that's all I'm going to do here to the tail. That just gives it an outline, a highlight, and I'm going to go ahead and move it over to the other side. Before we do the last thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small cutout of a canopy for a P51. I found this here on RC groups posted by a guy named Colin out of the UK. He did it on a small 48-inch P51 of mine that he did. I just blew it up a little bit to fit the the instrument panel cut out here. All I've done is I've cut it out to fit. I've sprayed the back of this with 3M77, and this is just cardstock paper. It's a little thicker than regular paper, but nothing other than that, nothing special. So now that it's sprayed and it's set up, I'm going to get it positioned in place and push down in. Okay, time to put the canopy on. Okay, we've already got our canopy cut out and fitted. What I did, I used just a Sharpie marker, and I used that to draw in the rail lines here on the canopy. I'm going to take a clean rag, and I want to wipe the inside out really well, make sure I get all the fingerprints out of the inside. That way, when it's glued on, it's going to be nice and clear. You know, you're not going to see the smudges in there. And whatever's on the outside, we can obviously get once it's down and on. I've got some canopy glue here, and what you do with the canopy glue, it's very simple. You're just going to be putting a small bead around the outside edge of your canopy, placing it into position, and then taping it down to hold it in place. What I'm going to be doing, once it's taped down, I'm going to use, just as an extra precaution so it doesn't come off, I'm going to use, again, the striping tape. I'm going to put a bead of that around the outside edge. Then let's go test fly this thing. Put a little bit more here. Okay, let's get this position down in. One thing about the P51 canopy, the very back end of the canopy sat just behind the wing saddle, so it's going to go, look in there, just right here where I've already outlined it in black. Get it down here. And positioned. Once it's down here in place, use it just cleans up with water. Want to wipe the excess off on the outside. Now the cool stuff about the canopy glue is it does dry clear. So even if you miss just a spot, it's not going to show. And I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of tape down here just to hold it while I get it started. Well, it's done. We spent another day or so more than we thought making this, but it seems to have turned out really well. Last thing we're going to do before we go out and test fly this is get your radio, make sure that your controls are going right and left. So we got right, we got left, up, down. This thing here, just to show you how much throw we ended up getting, it should have a possibility of rolling. So our elevator dual rates. The dual rate on the aileron, you can see it's set down to a comfortable level on the dual rate. So we'll be able to take it from extreme down to mild flying, good sport flying. Same thing on the elevator. I've also dialed in, due to the fact that the high rates have so much throw, I've dialed in about 65% negative exponential, and that's going to mellow out the center of the stick, and it's going to allow it to fly real smooth when it's going fast. So finished weight came out to 56 and a half, or 56.7, which is just about right for the conditions out here in Kansas. And from this point on, we're going to go out and fly it.